Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's another beautiful day to bill search. Let's go through my pocket change and see if we find anything collectible or worth more than face value. We'll start off with a series 2013 $1 note. Nothing design change wise in over 60 years, so nothing to touch on there. I do get asked about stray ink and stamps and stuff like that on bills, so since this one does have a little dot from a highlighter on there. Now, if it's not a tone of ink that comes in or on the bill, then it's going to be damage to the bill. Now, some things that have stamps are collectible. There is some super rare finds where there's something that made its way into the production process where it's printed in the bill. You can look those up. One of them's the rabbit bill. It has a little picture or stamp of a rabbit that's actually in the bill. But that was somebody playing around on the assembly line there. In this case, this is going to be post-production damage. On the back of the bill, since there's nothing in the serial number, we can look at the back of the bill. Sometimes you'll get a little play around where it says Novus Ordo Seclorum, or the depiction of the front of the Great Seal with the eagle here. You'll get a little blurring around, mainly the objects in his talons, but not in this case. Other than that, the bill's cut fine and printed fine. Next, in the serial number here, we do have a little bit of grouping of 8s and 6s. But unless it transcends the whole serial number, it's not going to be collectible or worth more than face value, in my opinion. Now, other than that, everything else seems to be printed fine. The seals are printed where they should be. Keep an eye for that when you look through bills to see if there's shifts in the print. Now, this one's been folded up all sorts of ways, as you can tell. So another thing to think about is if your question is, well, there's some kind of stray ink going on here, Kyle. That's a good observation, but as you can see, it runs along with the fold that's there. So most likely that's just from rubbing against the bill. On to the next one. Another 2013 series bill, so once again, nothing to talk about as far as changes in the physical nature of the bill. This one is printed appropriately as well, sitting on in between the margins correctly. It's not shifted one way or the other, left or right, up or down. On the back of the bill, we do have a couple little stray marks, but as I'm looking through them and it's a little harder to see in the camera, those are black marks from something outside. I mean, I'm sure if I rub this hard enough, that'd probably come off. Next bill. Now, this is a 2017 bill. Only difference here is the signatures at the bottom. And Stephen Nuchin, he prints his name. That's neither here nor there, but that's the only difference, really. It's the first time someone's quote-unquote signed a bill, but in a printed format, so just a little tidbit. Other than that, nothing in the serial number as far as a pattern or a sequence or anything we're going to call a fancy serial number, so nothing to touch on there. Now, another question I get a lot, and I've made the mistake of getting excited about it as well, is down here where you see this press through here. That is simply from the lapel of the jacket of Washington on the front of the note, so that's not an error. Next bill, nothing in the serial number, 2013 as well. This one's actually sitting perfectly where it should be. This seal should sit almost in the center of the outsides of the O on one and touching the middle chevron-looking thing in the middle of the E there. Now, we are missing a little bit of ink from the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, Illinois seal. I've actually seen ones where that's actually not this one specific being the G, but the Federal Reserve bank seal almost missing the letter entirely. I would then hold on to that. But in this case, it's just probably from when they're stacked, when they're wet, just kind of rub some of the ink off there. So it's not dramatic enough to hold on to. And we can see some pen marks and stuff like that. Nothing there, really. So we'll move on to the next one. Now, A here is for the Bank of Boston, Massachusetts. In the serial number, we almost had a date note there. If we would have had maybe 1350, then we would have had September 28, 1350. That's a date note, more collectible than valuable. Birthday notes are something that you'd want to look out for that are actually collectible. And nothing on the back. Flop these around for you. This is a little bit older one, and by a little bit, we're not talking like even 90s. You know, this is series 2009, so once again, only changes here or are going to be the signatures at the bottom for the Secretary of Treasury and the Treasurer of the United States. Aside from that, everything else is the same. This one's definitely been wet, and the way that you tell that is once we invent the ability for you to feel it through the camera. It's thinned out, so you can tell it's been wet by that. Also, the discoloration of the bill itself, how you see all this transfer of various debris and dirt and stuff like that, is generally indicative of it being wet at some point. So that's the determinator of that. Other than that, so any of this bleeding of the ink you see, how we're getting stray ink over here, that's not an error. I get a lot of people that ask me that. That is just damage. Next, 2013 note as well, printed appropriately from first looks. Once again, we do have a little bit of that bleeding of the green and the serial number, but it's very faint on this one. That's just from general use, circulation use of the bill. 2013 series, so we've seen tons of those throughout the bill searches. You probably see those all the time. And there's a little marker spot where somebody was drawing on the bills, so nothing to talk about there. Here's some nice little date notes. Now, I mentioned one of these earlier, so this one's a double date note having two different years on it, 1901 and 393. Now, this is a double date note. As I mentioned about these earlier, this one's going to be more collectible than valuable, being 1901 and 393. Now, we do have that normal over ink here on the third digit over from the left on this 2013 series bill, but that's very, very common. Aside from that, this is a little bit beat up. I wouldn't call it majorly collectible or valuable, but I like holding on to double date notes, especially if they're in a chronological order. So we'll set that aside. On to a $20 note. Now, we do have some stray ink up here at the top, but as I bring it closer, you can see that blue toning. So that's from a ballpoint pen or a felt pen, and as you can see, it bleeds all the way through there. You can tell that's on the bill and not in the bill, and therefore not collectible or above face value. So it's still 20 bucks. Aside from that, you got a little press through of the serial number from the front, but nothing to hold on to there. Next bill is a $5 bill. Now, these are my favorite of fives overall. I like the design of them after they redesigned them in the early 2000s. Everything seems to be printed appropriately. The only difference in 20s and 5s outside of $1 notes is they do not have the same Federal Reserve System seal. It's a system seal as opposed to a bank seal. Other than that, that's more of a graphical thing as opposed to something collectible. We have some damage to the top of the bill here. It's definitely been wrinkled a couple times and possibly wet, so nothing to talk about there. Next bill, 2017, so we've seen a couple of those now. This one's printed fine here as far as where it's sitting. It's not miscut or misprinted or misaligned print. This is probably one of the more crisp ones, although it is a little wavy, that we've come across in this bill search. Nothing jumping out there. Here's another one, which is actually in sequence from the other one, so that's cool. Must have just got those from the bank from the store I was at. Now, that's cool. But anyway, nothing to collect here. It would have been nice if we would have had 58587373. I would have definitely held on to that. It would have been a double repeater, which would have been cool. So that's something to keep an eye out for there. On the back of the bill, nothing major. That regular press through there of his jacket from the front. Next bill, almost like kind of a double year note. Now we have a stamp on here from CVS, it looks like. So maybe just a reception by their vault clerk or something. That happens a lot at both businesses and banks, where they're going to stamp the bill just to show they received that strap of ones in this case. So somebody just didn't really care and kind of hit part of the stamp off of there. Most likely the strap was sitting right here. Almost something with 1821 and 2315, but not even a double date note, and that stamp really actually pulls away from it if it were collectible. Nothing on the back. And here is a double date note, so we came across two of them with double years on them. 1973 and 1205. Nothing super crazy to scream about, but hey, cool, little bit of a find. But this one's pretty beat up, very wavy, very crinkled up, definitely has been wet before. So not super crazy about this one, but I will set it aside for being a minor find. And then our last couple of bills look like a couple of 5s and another 1. Series 2013 $5 note. Once again, I do like the graphics on it. Other than that, the larger face 5s from a long time ago, I like those as well. But it's more of an anti-counterfeiting measure type of thing that they change the graphics. And then somewhat to distinguish things a little differently from bill to bill. Another interesting thing is I do like the setup of this on the back of the bill as well. The enhanced graphics they've done are just beautiful of the Lincoln Memorial as well as depictions on other denominations. Same deal here, we'll kind of look at this $5 note since nothing was on that. Got a nice repetition of 6-4 here in the middle, but not enough to hold on to. Now, if it was across the whole bill, you'd be talking a few bucks higher than face value. But in this case, it's just a good old 5 spot, so nothing to cry about. We can go buy lunch with it. A little bit of folded up and beat up. Nothing really jumping out on the back around our constellation here amongst these 0-5s. So nothing to talk about there. And lastly, we got a 2009, so another 09 series $1 note. I don't see anything misprinted really. It is sitting a little to the left. As I mentioned before, it should be touching that chevron of the center of the E there. But that's still in bounds for us. On the back of the note, nothing really hopping out at me as collectible or misaligned or misprinted. So we got a good old-fashioned dollar bill. Now, the two things we did hold on to, although minor errors, but something to give an example of something to look out for, is our double year notes here, 1901 and 393, and a double year note, 1973 and 1205. I will put whatever happened in those years, if you're a history buff like me, just to have a little extra info in the description box. Other than that, it's an okay find, but not a biggie. We don't find stuff every single search. There's some channels out there that come across like a gold doubloon in every search they do, and I just can't believe that. But if their luck is that good, rock on to you. Hopefully your luck is going to be great in our giveaway tomorrow. If you have not joined the contest, hop back to 2 or 3 videos ago for our 20,000 subscriber shout out. We're giving away 15 prizes that are all mixed up from nerd stuff, geek stuff, video game stuff, and then of course good old paper currency and coin related supplies. So jump in on the fun. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting Variety and Errors, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.